Right, back live tonight here on In Focus, and thank you for staying on. Let's go back to one of our top stories then this evening. Inkatha Freedom Party leader Velenkosini Hlabisa has promised to reserve jobs for South Africans, grow the economy and resolve the crippling power crisis. He made the pledges at the party's election manifesto launch at Durban's Mabhida Stadium today. Let's discuss this with political analyst Dr Zamokuhle Mbandlwa. Dr. Mbandlwa, good to have you, and thank you very much for joining us this evening. Let's start firstly, in the 50 years, the party says they have championed democracy, freedom and justice and serving the people. The kind of showing that they would have displayed at the Mabhida Stadium today, is that befitting the kind of impact that they would have had in the last 50 years?
Good evening to you, and also good evening to the viewers at home. I wouldn't say they are defeated, but I would say maybe you must also take into account that this manifesto comes after the passing away of the leader. This is the first manifesto after the founder and the leader of the IFP have left us. So in other words, it's the first time they are independent. The leaders that are currently leading now are independent. So it's the first time they are addressing the nation or the supporters of the IFP in a manifesto for the national and provincial elections. Some people did not expect many people supporting the party today, but I was just watching the manifesto. I was not on the stadium. I was not even close to the stadium. I was watching on TV, and I saw a lot of people. But also, that also confirmed something that I always say in various media platforms, where I always say all political parties have a capacity to mobilize people and support them in the manifesto or in any rally. But that does not necessarily translate to victory. It does not mean that if there were many supporters in the stadium, therefore that political party will win elections. So it does not translate to that. But let's quickly look at what the IFP have said. I think the leader of the IFP had many things to say compared to many other parties that have launched their manifestos. And there was nothing that was new on what he said, besides the fact that he tried maybe to address the issue of where the money will come from. Because many leaders are coming with bright ideas, brilliant ideas, but they are not able to tell the nation where the money will come from. Even though he was not clear, but he tried to inform the people how the money will be invested in South Africa. Yet it's not happening now, and we are not sure whether whatever that he says is possible to happen.
Yes.
And there are so many other things as well that left me very confused. Because there are things that he spoke about, like, for example, he mentioned that the country, when the IFP take over, that's what he wants to see happening. If the IFP take over, he will invoice the countries where people from those countries are actually receiving health services in the country.
Yes.
Which is something that I think is not possible. Is highly impossible, because when people migrate, they don't actually migrate under the instruction of the government. So how do you then request the government to make a payment for the health services if people are in a particular country? So that's a problem. But
did you expect those?
But also, I think,
sorry, Dr. Mbandlwa, let me just come in here. Did you expect, though, that the immigration angle will be so prominent in that manifesto to the point, I don't know if they are done in any numerical order, but it is number 3 on that list, this issue of illegal foreigners?
Yes. He spoke a lot about migration, and he also spoke a lot about foreign industries, foreigners. I think that is not something that many people have expected. Like in many manifestos that you have actually witnessed, I think the leaders were very cosmetic in terms of how they deal with issues of foreigners and foreign industries. They were very careful in what they've said. But I think in this manifesto, a lot was spoken about in terms of the foreign national. But let's also look at what he said in terms of the unemployment, where he spoke about something that I think is very phenomenal, the issue of taking care of the unemployed graduates.
Yeah.
Well, he said there will be an unemployed graduates grant, which I think is a very good approach. But the question is where the money will come from, because I think all the leaders, everybody that have presented a manifesto, they only rely on the government funds. There's nothing that they will bring in government should they take over. So remember, the government rely on tax, and it means that if they want to fund the unemployed graduates, they need to come with a strategy to mobilize funds that will be utilized to fund the unemployed graduates. But I think that's a very good idea, because at the moment we have so many unemployed graduates with sufficient skills and knowledge, but they are not employed. And I think the IFP is the only party so far that spoke about such grants. And I think maybe the government, whoever that will win, have to have a look at how they compensate the unemployed graduates, because it also discourages those who want to enter the education system. If they see their elders, their peers, who have been through the system but they are unemployed and they are not contributing into the economy of this country.
It seems though to be a feeling of most parties, while you're on that question. It seems to be a presentation by most parties that their programs are going to be funded by, one, restructuring the economy and the fiscus, cutting government spend, cutting government ministries, cutting levy spending on ailing SOEs, and they are all kind of looking at that and saying this is the way we're going to get money. So there's money in this government. So if we cut all these things, we'll be able to fund a program like a graduates grant.
Yes, that is one strategy. But also remember, some of those solutions might be temporary solutions. We need to have a permanent solution to the economic problems that we have in the country. And remember, when you are just using the money and there's no money coming in, then we'll have a problem. So if you are given a specific amount of budget and there's no money that will come in, that will be made out of that money, then if you are only spending, then create a problem. I think we need to come with a strategy to revitalize the economy in the country in a manner that will make people more economically active in the country. So in other words, if we want to sustain the economy, we must do away with the mentality of spending, but we must also ensure that we have a mentality of reproducing more than what we have. And the only way to do that is to ensure that the government is genuinely assisting entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurs are creating more employment opportunities for other people. If you have more entrepreneurs, it becomes much easier for the country to operate, because those who are employed are also paying tax, so the money comes back to the government. So if we have a government that is actually saying people must rely on grants, then we have a serious problem. But also what he spoke about is the issue of load shedding. I think many political parties, not just the IFP, they have not done a research to find out where exactly the problem is, even the ruling party. Because when they say we don't have enough energy, then there must be a clear indication of where exactly is the problem. Is it because there's no money to fund more energy, or we don't have the coal to be able to keep the lights on? So there's no clear research that has been conducted by parties to say where exactly is the problem? Is it because there's no money? Or is it because there's a lack of mineral resources? Or because at some point, some leaders have publicly said there is a sabotage at Eskom. So we need to have a clear indication where exactly the problem, where exactly is the problem. Because at the moment, if parties such as the IFP is saying that they will come up with solar energy, and they will also come up with nuclear energy. So, well, that's good. But if there's no proper accountability at Eskom, then there will be a problem. If there's a matter of leadership or leadership deficiencies at Eskom, that must be clearly investigated. And there must be a mechanism to address such problems. Not saying there must be a new system in terms of how the power is being generated, because the problem will still exist if there's no mechanism to deal with the actual problem. We're just dealing with the symptoms. So I think that's another problem.
Yeah, yeah.
They also spoke about something that I think is very important.
Sorry, Doc. I was saying the question then of saying we will achieve all these things because, for example, we are not hamstrung by ideologies. So we're not going to have a particular political context in how we approach these things, seemingly to suggest, for example, like when it comes to issues like load shedding and how we deal with the coal and so on and so forth, they are not going to be caught up in this thing of the ANC where they're fighting about whether coal should continue or we should be moving into a more cleaner energies, and it's all caught up in who gets to win, whether it's white monopoly capital or it's black economic partners.
Yes, in fact, I was going to address that just now because I want to align the issue of the coal and the energy with the railway system that you spoke about. Well, there is a problem, a contradiction, because the government is saying there's not enough energy and there's not enough coal, but if then it is being privatized, then there will be enough energy and then there will be enough coal. So where will this coal come from if it's not run by the government? So it remains a big issue. But also the issue of the railway system. The railway system was very efficient and effective before, but now if you look at the trucks that are being used now to transport the mineral resources, they are actually more than the trains that are actually dealing with issues or the transport that is being used at a railway system, whereby you have many resources that are being transported through the railway system. Now, the railway system has collapsed. And now, because they've done so deliberately because they wanted to open a room for the road transport whereby people are using trucks. And if you look at the capacity of the trucks and the capacity of the railway system, you can see that the productivity and also the capacity can never be compared. It's not the same. So I think that is the main problem. And I think at the moment, we really need to have a system where someone is going to come up with a way of ensuring that railway system is being revitalized or whatever that they can do to ensure that at least we have a working railway system, because at the moment, the railway system is not effective. And I think it's affecting also the coal, the transportation of the coal, and it also affects electricity and Eskom as well.
Right. Dr. Zamokuhle Mbandlwa, let's leave it there. Much appreciated, and thank you for your analysis and coming on this evening on some of the key areas that will be covered within that manifesto of the IFP. 13 fundamental challenges, and of course, top of that being jobs, crime, and illegal foreigners, load shedding, education, healthcare, human settlements, infrastructure solution, transport, and access to land and environment. Those are some of the issues. I'm sure, certainly if you go into that manifesto, there's a whole lot more that we could still unpack in that conversation.